Everybody, welcome to a new edition of the GW Basketball Insiders. David Korn and Liam O'Murku here, joined with a special guest, our first guest of this podcast. Who else but head coach of the George Washington men's basketball team, Chris Caputo. And coach, you seem to be in a little bit of a pickle right now. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on?
We just had a really good shoot around, and you take two buses from the site where you shoot around back to the hotel. And our bus, unfortunately, I picked the wrong bus because our bus broke down. So we're on the side of the road waiting for a new bus to show up and pick us up. But the good news is here you can see in the background we're in the Virgin Islands, so you get the water in the background. So it's a nice weather, nice breeze.
Than where we are. We got some snowflakes in DC today, so we're all jealous of you right now.
Much better weather here for sure.
Yeah, Coach, I was saying I texted David about an hour or two ago and said that my power just went out, so I needed to go to a coffee shop so that I could kind of prepare for this. I thought I was going to have to do this interview from a coffee shop or a library. I didn't know where I was going to go, but it came back just in time. So
I definitely didn't think I'd be on the side of the road either. But
well, this adds to the charm. I feel like there's always something like this with one of these MTEs, but we're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to ask the question that everyone is wondering right now. How is Jacoi Hutchinson looking? How is the ankle? And what do you think about his status for tonight against Kansas State?
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks pretty good. So we'll see. But yeah, right now it looks pretty good. Yeah.
Has he been practicing?
Yeah. Yep. So as long as tolerance is there, then we're good to go.
Yeah, that's great news.
Yeah. So kind of going into that, I mean, what do you guys think you have to do to win this game tonight? Obviously, K-State, Power 5 opponent. They've got some very good players who they paid a lot of money for, so should be a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're finding themselves as a group, but certainly, they have a lot of accolades individually. Very good coaching staff, obviously a coaching staff that's had success there. So we're gonna have to play our best game of the season, obviously. Trying to limit them in transition, understanding. You're gonna have to apply some pressure to their sets, and not let them, just kind of get any sort of half-court offensive rhythm, which I don't think they've really found yet, and yet they're very capable of it. And then obviously on the glass, they're a very, very good offensive rebounding team. Not quite as good on the defensive glass to this point. But again, I mean, I think their size alone, we're going to have to be able to protect the paint, stay out of foul trouble.
So, yeah, you talked about that size. This will be obviously Rafael Castro's biggest test so far with you guys going up against their front court led by Coleman Hawkins. What do you expect from him tonight? And, what have you guys done to make sure he's sort of up for that challenge after four sort of smaller teams to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the smaller teams are actually harder to play against for big guys than the bigger teams, And so, obviously, Rafael's got a lot of experience in the Big East, having played against a lot of really good big guys, And, I think he'll be able to handle himself well there. Our front court obviously is pretty experienced. And so, again, I hope the challenge, it won't necessarily be man-on-man, those challenges. It may be some of the switching, right, that we've been pretty good in terms of the way we've switched. And I think that could put us in some positions where we have smaller guys on there, bigger guys, and, what the rotations look like from there and things like that and how tight that is going to be important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of curious, obviously, this is not your first rodeo in terms of these MTEs where you're playing lots of games in a short period of time.
Yeah.
What does the scouting operation sort of look like for something like this? Because obviously, you're going to play Kansas State, and then you're going to play either Liberty or Louisiana. But then for that third game, do you just scout all of the teams? What does that look like?
Oh, we lost your audio for a second.
Flow in terms. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Good now.
Okay. Sorry. I think one of the things is you prepare for the first game. That's the only game that the group prepares for. But the other guys on staff have prepared, in great detail for the other opponents. And then obviously in these opportunities, you get to scout live, which we don't do normally. And so you get more information. But I also think in these quick turnarounds, right, it's more about the energy that you're going to have to play 3 and 4 than necessarily is about the scheme, because you just don't have much time to prepare. You don't have much time to practice after this first game. And so just, I think messaging guys in detail but not overkill, and understanding big themes of those games. And generally it's who's got the most energy, right? Who's got the most juice.
Yeah, so looking more at Kansas State, Doug McDaniel's obviously one of their premier players. Can you talk about how sort of, if Jacoi is able to play, how that ankle will sort of go into your game plan against him? Whether that's sort of an impact that you have, sort of thinking about the defensive assignments, and just sort of what your plan is to stop him.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously he's just an accomplished player. He's very dynamic. He's probably faster than anybody we've played against. And, I think your ability to impact him and keep him in front with, in pick and rolls, especially in transition, that those coverages and being tight with that, not allowing him to bend it, not allowing him to get around 2 guys is going to be so important. And, the thing about him is he's not just a guy who can drive the ball. He can shoot, and so, being able to make him miss, impacting him is going to be so important. Guys like that with space, very, very difficult. And so trying to tighten the screws on him, anytime we get an opportunity to, is important. And you're not going to get an opportunity to do that unless you get back defensively. And so, trying to limit him in transition as well.
Yeah, he did not play in their most recent game against Mississippi Valley State. So
that's just that was the coach's decision. So
yeah. Interesting dynamic there. So, I mean, kind of going back to the whole 3 games in 4 days, that obviously impacts the rotations. You could probably need to go a little deeper into the bench. So can you talk about kind of what that looks like, or what you're expecting that to look like in these next few days?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we told the guys, hey, after 4 games, you have sort of a rotation. You had some injuries and things like that, but that everybody needs to be available. Everybody needs to be ready. And there's going to be opportunity for probably everybody on the roster in these games. And so trying to, prepare guys that, hey, where your role might have changed, not much or whatever, but in the first 4 games, you may have a new opportunity here. And then again, those opportunities in this situation allow for guys to go ahead and, hold on, we got bus moving. Somebody left their phone on the other bus. Yeah. I think guys will get that opportunity, and then, hey, if you play well here, that can catapult you to, when we get back in the rest of the season. So there's not a lot of time to linger around and think about what may or may not have happened. You're going to play a game, and you're going to get ready to play another game, and get ready to play another game, all in quick succession. And the good news is that you can have a short memory. Like if you didn't play great, you get another opportunity tomorrow. If you did play great, you got to bring it again. So I like the opportunity to do this here early in the season. And when you come home, while you haven't played a road game yet, I mean, you've played 4 home games and 3 neutral sites. That's a pretty good sample size.
Yeah. So, Coach, we've heard that you guys might have some support from some people here on the Virgin Islands with Jacoi Hutchinson. So can you talk about sort of what that's been like, and what that sort of extra crowd support is going to mean for you guys there at the neutral site? Yeah,
we'll see. I know he's got family here, and people are going to come. I'll also say, Kansas State, Coach Tang and Dream Dowling, who's his assistant, who I've known a long time. They're from St. Croix, so it's a boat ride away for them. And so, I expect that we'll have a great crowd tonight. From everything I've heard about the tournament, this is 25 years that they've done the Paradise Jam. It's exceptionally well run. And I think, just talking to some of the people on the island, it's a big deal for this island. They love basketball here. And to have, Kansas State here, have ourselves some schools with some connections to the island. I think, again, I'm excited. I think, a lot of times you play in these MTEs and maybe it doesn't always feel like a great crowd. I think hopefully now we can create a great environment here tonight.
Have you coached at Paradise Jam before?
No, I've been to St. Thomas, but never coached in this event.
Love the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I mean, like, break it down. Like, there's one or two things that you guys think you have to do to win tonight. What do you think that is? I know that you
Yeah, I
said
mean,
a little
I
bit
think,
before
yeah. I mean, obviously, look, we're gonna have to make a few more shots, but I think taking care of the ball really important. You know, that's your first step in getting a good shot at it, take care of the ball, and then I think defensively, handling some of their actions where they're back screening big guys into the post and sort of doing it with shooting, right? So how are you handling those actions? And then are you able to keep it out of the post? If it does get in there, are you able to, get bodies to that post player so that it's just not easy, scores at the rim, knowing that they're shooting, setting screens, right? And, if you think about get back, handle Doug McDaniel pick and rolls, and then those back screens that lead their big guys, touches. Obviously, a lot of shooting. Coleman Hawkins, Jones, House, a number of guys that can make shots, and so being able to protect the paint and get out there, it'll be a great test for us. And I think our guys are excited for it, up for it. We've had plenty of time to prepare, and so I think the worst part of playing is waiting around to play. So that's the only thing, is playing a late game.
Well, yeah, that all sounds great. And one last question for me. I don't know if Liam has another,
Sure.
but last question for me. What's been sort of a highlight off the court so far of the trip down here? I know we saw some fun stuff on social media, but what's been a highlight for you?
Yeah. It's a good thing about getting here 2 days in advance is you can enjoy yourself a little bit, especially with the late game tonight. Gave us some time. We actually, the team went on a catamaran ride, and that was fun. And guys got a chance to go in the water. And I was surprised Diane Nessa, who was in Barcelona for 5 years, and never really got in the ocean past his knees. So, kind of got off the catamaran into the Caribbean, and that was great. You guys were able to do a little snorkeling and things like that. But the best part is it's only like 2 hours, so it's not like you're out the whole day. It's what's great is you get out half hour, you jump in the water for an hour, half hour you're back home, and you've done something, but you haven't expended so much energy. Where I thought we had a very good practice yesterday after that, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. Well, we know how busy you are at these MTEs. We know this is a bit of an unexpected setting for this conversation, so we really appreciate you making some time for us here with the Department of Hoops on the GW Basketball Insiders podcast, and we are all super excited for the matchup tonight against Kansas State.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate what you guys are doing with this. I think it's really it's neat. It draws a lot of attention to the program, and we certainly, as we grow, we love the idea that we're getting some coverage from you guys, and hope to do some great stuff with you. So appreciate you guys doing this. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
and shout
so
out Matt Maderno for putting this all together. Okay. Coach, that was great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yep.
All right.
Talk soon. Yep.
Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good luck tonight.
All right. Well, that was a good interview.
Yeah, that was great. Want to just head right into the next part? I think that was clean.
Let's head right into the next part. I do think I want to reflect for a second on the fact that we got him while the bus was broken down.
That was the most MTE thing to ever happen, wasn't it, Liam?
Yeah, putting the phone up, being like, look, here's the ocean.
Oh, my God. Beautiful. I love it. I love this type of stuff. But I mean, we both know this, but that's like the kind of guy Chris Caputo is. Me and Liam were ready. We were on this call talking about sort of preparing, and we weren't supposed to talk to him for another like 10, 15 minutes. But I get a text from him just being like, hey, let's do this now. I'm like, oh, great. He's early. No, he is on the side of the road. And that was a ton of fun. Really cool. A lot of great insight, and a lot of great insight on what he thinks it'll take to beat Kansas State. Liam, what were your first reactions to sort of his game plan-ish, or what he told us so far?
I don't know. I think it's great if they need to knock down these 3-point shots. I don't think they can beat Kansas State if they continue to shoot at the rate they've been shooting at. So who knows? Maybe different arena, different rims, all that will will help. Certainly having Jacoi Hutchinson seems like he's going to be playing tonight.
Yeah, I feel like he went as far as to guarantee it without guaranteeing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the thing I'm scared about with that
I think
is
we can go the rest of the show assuming Hutchinson will play, but he's not 100%.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if he'll be on any sort of minutes restriction, and also what does he look like? Because after this, they're going to have, they're playing 3 games in 4 days. So he won't have this sort of time to recover that he would if it was, they were doing their normal, Tuesday, Saturday or Wednesday, Saturday sort of schedule. So I would kind of be under the assumption that he's going to be, have enough strength to play tonight, but I would maybe keep an eye on it.
I wouldn't be shocked if him and Christian Jones are more of a 50-50 split at the point guard minutes, especially with what Caputo mentioned about Doug McDaniel and how athletic and speedy he is, especially on those pick and rolls. If Hutchinson's playing on a bum ankle, it's going to be really tough to get around those screens. So I would be shocked to see a lot more Christian Jones tonight, even if Hutchinson is ready, just for his defense, athleticism, and health, really, and just being able to guy you can sort of stick on McDaniel. I know we said they're not going to be playing a lot of man, but I think having a player like that to defend against his type of athleticism with the defensive chops we've seen from him so far this season, I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually 2 Christian Jones in this game. Kansas State has Christian Jones too, although he goes by CJ. So there you go. The matchup of the Christian Jones. We thought maybe we were going to get it in the last MTE because he played for UIC last year. And obviously our Christian Jones redshirted, but
that's Liam. That's the type of analysis you can only get here on the GW Basketball Insiders podcast.
That is true.
That and flight tracking. How was your flight tracking so far before this?
Oh, marvelous. It was great. You were the one that sort of tipped me off on that.
I got some quote intel about the general vicinity or the airport they were flying out of, the general time they were flying out, and that they were flying commercial. And Liam, you took it from that.
Yeah, well, all you said was they were flying commercial. And there's only one commercial flight from Dulles to St. Thomas per day. So I figured it out. And then as I was looking at the arrivals of into the St. Thomas airport, it was, the airports you'd expect, some from Miami, some from Puerto Rico, 1 or 2 from, Charlotte, whatever.
Yeah,
and then there was one from, the hubs. And then there was one from Manhattan, Kansas. And I was like, I think I know who's on that plane. So, anyway, I think this is going to be a test for GW. The other thing is these Kansas State fans are really dissatisfied with how this team has been playing.
Yeah, I've been poking around their message board too. Yeah.
They spent a lot of money. They spent, rumor is, what was it, $2 million?
Hawkins, he was like a $2 million guy, and he's been pretty underwhelming. He
was 1 for 11 from the field against Mississippi Valley State.
I watched the LSU game. I had a day off earlier this week, put that on while I was doing some work. He does not look. I just feel like he's been settling for too many of these perimeter shots when he should be going inside. And I think if he keeps doing that, I mean, I don't know. It's tough because I think GW's strengths are their interior, both defensively and offensively. So I don't know if you necessarily want him there, but it's like, I feel like Hawkins has not been playing to his strengths all season so far, and he needs to. If he doesn't, I feel like that gives GW a real shot.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So Kansas State has actually been pretty good down low, at least in terms of field goal percentage, defensively. So I think this will certainly be. I mean, it's no secret that this is going to be GW's biggest test. This is going to be Rafael Castro's biggest test. So. We'll see going up against Hawkins. And I think he'll probably be matched up with Onyesu, who actually was probably their player of the game against Mississippi Valley State. Not that, it's Mississippi Valley State. As much as I love their Twitter account and their commentators.
Oh, it's been great.
They are statistically the worst team in Division I basketball. So
they're better than NJIT?
I don't know. I think according to KenPom, NJIT is better than them. NJIT lost to Bucknell last night. Good Bucknell team. John Griffin III is a good coach. Let's see. I would love to see Sean Hansen get involved a little bit here. I know we talked about him in our last episode, and you were a little dissatisfied. I posted something on the GW message board in the middle of the last game. I said, is it too early to be a little concerned about Sean Hansen? And there were probably 50-50 in terms of people responding and saying, I don't think it's time to be worried. I think he's, whatever, he's good with the fundamentals, or he's a good passer or something like that. But I do think there's a chance that like maybe Rafael Castro gets into foul trouble or something, and then Kansas State starts. I feel like if they get like he's, from what I've seen, he's been a little slow, and I think maybe they can get a guard, if Kansas State can get a guard onto him.
I just feel like he's such a tweener on defense that it's really tough for him to find a suitable match. Again, I know it's not man defense, but I just feel like the 4s are faster than him and the 5s are stronger than him. And it's tough when he's not out there with Castro to sort of mask some of those deficiencies, where when he's like the center, the defense really struggles and takes a step back.
Yeah. Excuse me. Can we talk about Darren Buchanan for a second? What do you think kind of constitutes a successful tournament for him? Because this could be an opportunity where he goes out there, and if he really shows out against Kansas State, there's people that have been paying attention to him. But like, if he goes out there and has a performance like he's had against some of these kind of lower quality teams that GW has played this year and last year, then, I feel like that kind of puts him into a higher echelon, gives him a little more respect among the A10 media. No one wants to respect him because GW can't win.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge game because GW, again, started 4-0, but look at the teams they beat. Looking at the rest of the non-conference, especially if they lose to Kansas State and end up on the opposite side of the bracket to Liberty and McNeese, maybe, there aren't a lot of you may not get many more good opportunities to play against sort of real competition until you get to conference play. So I think this is a huge opportunity to show that these first 4 games weren't a fluke, or not necessarily a fluke, but that they weren't just a product of the opposition. And last year, in GW's game at South Carolina, they got blown out, even though they had a pretty solid rest of the non-con. And that was more, what we learned was that was more indicative of the team GW really was than the team that beat up on the weaker opponents. So I think right here is the opportunity to, again, show that it's not a fluke, show that you are for real. And, for Buchanan, that will mean stepping up and showing that he's the best player on the floor. And he will be doubled. He will be the focal point of their defense. And he needs to show that he can score in more ways than just bulldozing to the rim. And, I've seen him, try some of these mid-range fades, sort of some of these drop steps, and they've worked sometimes, but I think he needs to show that, he did a great job passing last game. He had 6 assists with Jacoi out. He really took over that playmaking role. I think he needs to make Kansas State respect his playmaking. GW needs to make shots around him so that they can't just double him every time. And yeah, I mean, I said it before, I think he needs to be the best player on the floor every game. I think that will be a successful tournament for him. And I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility.
No, he's shown that he can be dominant, when he gets downhill and when he goes towards the basket. I mean, how big would it be if he could hit a 3-pointer or 2, even just to kind of stretch out?
What is he, 0 for 9 now?
Yeah, I think he's 0 for 9.
He hasn't made one. That's the big thing. And he's taken enough where it's concerning. And the shots themselves have not been even really close. So I'd be really interested to see, how Kansas State defends him on the perimeter. Will they just respect the fact that he made some shots last season and, throw a contest on these, or will they just let him shoot, assuming he'll miss? Because I think that'll be a really interesting way. Because, again, if they let him shoot and he still keeps missing them, the offense is toast because they are good enough where they can pretty much force him to the perimeter. And he needs to at least make these shots look like real competitive shots, I think, for GW have a chance. And going for that, the role players on this team, I'm considering the role players Trey Moss, Gerald Rumgool, and Trey Autry. I think those are the 3 main guys who are going to sub in and out around Jacoi Hutchinson, Darren Buchanan, and Rafael Castro. I think those 3 guys need to step up, especially from the 3-point line. I think that's my big key for the game tonight against Kansas State is you need to see those 3 guys make shots and make shots efficiently to have a chance.
Yeah.
And support the 3 sort of more key guys.
Yeah. I am beginning to get a little concerned with Drumgoole, who seems to have the greenest of green lights, and he just hasn't been making a lot of shots. And it's like, I just wonder if there comes a point where instead of having him take the 3-pointers, you have someone who's a little more efficient from 3 take the 3-pointers.
I don't think that person exists.
Yeah, well, that person is Garrett Johnson.
Johnson. And Caputo has mentioned this a few times already this season, how they sort of built this team to complement Johnson and to sort of build it around the core of Jacoi Hutchinson, Garrett Johnson, and Darren Buchanan. And without Johnson, that really threw a wrench into things. Like, they were expecting him, based on what we saw last season, this ACL and this knee injury he had was unrelated to his prior health issues. So it was like a freak thing. So they were fully expecting him to be ready to play 30-plus minutes a game and be, 15, 16, 17, 18 point per game scorer and probably the top 3-point shooter in the league. And I think what we've seen this year already from the pieces they had that they were supposed to be building around him, if you plug that type of player that they thought Johnson would be into this team, we are having entirely different conversations about this team's ceiling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Poor Garrett Johnson. Garrett Johnson is cursed.
I feel so bad. I know. Being around the Smith Center, you can kind of see him. It's like, it just like really is like, I haven't talked to him yet this year, but it's like sad watching him because you know how much he went through. If you aren't familiar with Garrett Johnson's story, I've written a few pieces on it for A10 Talk. You can go find those online, but it's a really heartbreaking story and a really sort of inspirational recovery he had last year. If you remember, he took the college basketball world, not just GW, not just the A10, but the entire college basketball world by storm when he came back after, missing 2.5 years because of the tumor in his hip. And, now to have another injury, more time out, really is a shame. But yeah, no, it's a heartbreaking story. And looking past sort of the person, he would have been such a great fit on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see what else here. Just sort of things that GW needs to do. They need to prevent second chance opportunities for Kansas State. That's something Kansas State's been good at this year. How about this? Both teams have an opponent free throw percentage of 81.6%. What are the odds?
I feel like free throws are always tougher in environments.
Yeah, so, that's actually a good point.
I'm bummed we forgot to ask Caputo this, but I was curious about what he thought about the court, if he's seen it, because I know sometimes
that's a good question.
There can be issues. I mean, I know they're not playing in a ballroom. I know they're playing in like a real gym. Paradise Gym has been here 25 years, like you mentioned, and it's like a well-respected tournament. We're not getting a ballroom. We're not getting like any wet spots, hopefully. So, but again, that's something you need to consider. But the free throws, GW, I think I've been impressed with the free throws, especially Castro.
Honestly, I've been a little like I keep waiting for a regression to the mean. He's a 41%.
Did you see Castro's 3-point shot attempt last game?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Don't know if he'll do that again.
Yeah.
Airball to corner, open corner 3.
Yeah. Jimmy Patsos was dissatisfied. He was like, "What?"
Yeah. So Liam, you've been watching a lot of these games on TV. How's Patsos been this year?
He's been good. He always has a story in him. I kind of think I want to get him on this podcast because you could ask him one question and he would go for an hour.
Well, the question I want to ask him, right?
About that time he closed down the bar when he was at the Under Armour Circuit AAU tournament.
Oh no, I want to ask about the Steph Curry story. I want to hear that story later. I feel like that's an off-air story, but yeah, I want to hear him talk about his. If you don't know, just Google Jimmy Patsos Steph Curry, and it is one of the crazier press conferences I think that college basketball has seen. Patsos talking about him after Davidson killed his Siena team? Or his Loyola team. Either way, Steph Curry killed Patsos, and the press conference after was something. So I would love to ask about that, but we can definitely make that happen. So if you guys want to hear Jimmy Patsos, let us know. And also, if you're still listening, which I don't expect many of you are after Caputo hung up, if there are any guests from the GW basketball, college basketball, DC basketball sphere that you would like us to get on and talk to, let us know. I mean, we're both pretty well connected. We know a lot of people. We can definitely try and make that happen. So if there's anyone you want to hear us talk about, write a comment on Twitter, DM us, reach out. However you want to get in touch with us, we will do our absolute best to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the other teams in this tournament, because obviously GW plays Kansas State tonight. We're planning on releasing this in late afternoon, evening. And so as of now, Longwood beat UA. So on the other side of the bracket, it's Longwood versus UAB and Illinois State versus McNeese. Longwood beat UAB, which kind of surprises me. UAB was ranked a lot higher than them. So Longwood is now into the winners bracket. I would expect McNeese State to beat Illinois State. And then on GW's side of the bracket, it's Louisiana versus Liberty. So we can focus a little bit on those two teams, because that's who GW will be playing next. If, win or lose. So Liberty is actually the highest ranked team in this tournament per KenPom.
Yeah, after Kansas State's disappointing start.
Right. Kansas State, I believe, was ahead of them before their Mississippi Valley State fiasco.
They still won, but
they didn't cover, though, although they were favored by 31. So, it was a 2-point game at halftime. Anyway, that was torture watching that game. I posted about it. I skeeted about it on Blue Sky. We got to get to
I need to get on Blue Sky. You're on it officially?
I'm on it officially. It's me. It's literally, there's 3 GW people on there. There's like probably 25 billion UMass people. All these UMass people are on Blue Sky.
Well, I know Curtis Stage has been big on Blue Sky, right?
Yeah, he has been big on Blue Sky.
Who are the GW guys on Blue Sky?
Do you want to guess? So it's me. There's 3 of us. So is
Bob?
No, no, he's not. It's me, and it's 2 people who I can almost guarantee are still listening to this.
Is Abe on it?
No, but we do need to
Ryan?
get him. Yep, it's me, Ryan, and JJ Gottschalk.
Oh, dude, just like your little
3 Musketeers.
We talk. I've seen some discourse about how Blue Sky is just an echo chamber of sorts. That doesn't really go against dispelling that theory.
Yeah, I'm kind of okay with. We can. This is
that's
entirely
not
different.
criticism.
No, this is an entirely different discussion. But there was actually someone who. So a post on Blue Sky apparently is called a skeet. I don't know if that's a real thing or if that's just something that people kind of willed into existence.
Okay.
But someone skeeted at Lil Bana X, who goes by Lil Bana Twitter on Blue Sky.
That's funny.
And said, you are the only person you're like the A10 person that I'm familiar with. I'm a Kansas State fan. What's the deal with GW? And Lil Bana X, posted out there and was like, can anyone help me? The only time I watched them was against NCA&T, whatever. So I gave him a little response and whatever, but he is, they're very, very concerned.
So you have a Kansas State friend on Blue Sky. That's cute.
I do have a Kansas State friend on Blue Sky. He said, this is word for word, we can't rebound a basketball if it was connected by a string to our hands, and a 1940s plumber could score in the post against us. So I'd be more bullish on your chances. So
I think based on that analysis, I think Darren Buchanan and Rafael Castro are certainly better interior scorers than a 1940s plumber. So that actually has me feeling a bit better.
Yeah. There has to be some medium, because I know there are some GW fans that are like, oh, well, we haven't looked great and whatever and all this different stuff. But we've still been winning relatively comfortably with the exception of North Carolina A&T, or excuse me, GW has still been winning.
So this is the thing. They've been winning and they haven't played their best.
Yeah, and that's always something you want. You always want to be able to teach lessons
they've
after
been beating these teams. Again, we've talked about all these issues, like Sean Hance's defense, the 3-point shooting of Drumgoole and Moss. Like Moss had a good 3-point shooting game against NJIT. But it's like we talk about all these issues, but they're still winning by 20 points, covering or coming very close to covering against these teams. You feel pretty good about those results when you can see it. If they start making these shots at a better clip, like just the 3-point shot making, if it just like regresses to the mean, or I guess maybe not, but if it goes to what we expected it to be based on these players' previous track records, GW is blowing these teams out by like 40, not like 20.
Yeah, well, that's always an easy thing to say. Well, if we just made a few more 3-pointers, then this and that. But I kind of do agree.
But I'm not saying it's like we'd win, but I'm saying it's like think about
Yeah.
how much more you would have won by, because these were already comfortable wins.
No,
So
I agree.
it's like that potential is there, I think. And again, yes, maybe this GW team is not a great 3-point shooting team. Maybe they're not even a great team overall, but they can still have nights where these 3-point shots do go in. And I think that gives them the potential to be sort of giant slayers, because you have a guy like Buchanan and you have the potential for 3-point shot making.
Yeah, I mean, like they're a 25% 3-point shooting team right now. Like, I feel like the last 10 days or so, the GW fan base has sort of been waiting for the other shoe to drop, and the consensus has been, well, like, yeah, they might not be a great 3-point shooting team. I think Caputo has even said this, but there's no way they're a 25% 3-point shooting team. Like that's like they're like at some point, some of these shots are going to start to fall, and it's not like they're taking terrible shots. Like that is actually something I've observed about the offense this year. Is maybe it's because we no longer have James Bishop, who would take and sometimes make these wild, insane, inadvisable shots, but like they're creating good shots. They're moving the ball around. They're doing the things and like creating like, the shots that they want to take. And sometimes they're just not falling.
Yeah.
But also like these shots need to start falling. You're not going to be able to beat Kansas State if you, shoot 25% from 3-point range. Maybe you can do it if you shoot low 30s%, and you continue to be as efficient and effective as you have been down low. But I think that's the key to this game is you got to make some of those 3-pointers that they've missed. They need to make them if they want to win this game.
So I think we've effectively previewed GW Kansas State. We had a great conversation with Chris Caputo. And Liam, you mentioned a name that I think that reminded me of a great story that I think you should share with our audience again, if they're still listening right now. You mentioned Lil Bonnet X. Why don't you tell the story about the St. Bonaventure fan who was sitting behind you during your radio broadcast last year and your interactions with him? Because that is just, I think, one of the funniest moments. Perfectly encapsulates the craziness of like A10 basketball and A10 Twitter. And I just think people need to know. Yeah,
you might need to fill in some of the gaps here because this all happened. So I'm sitting if you've been in the Smith Center before, where like the WRGW people sit, and I was broadcasting. This was the senior night game that GW won and snapped
they snapped their 12-game losing streak and beat St. Bonaventure.
And they beat them pretty comfortably too. They like looked good.
Yeah. And then they almost beat Duquesne the next game. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's obviously like St. Bonaventure travels well, always will. How the GW men's soccer coach once described it to me is, well, the reason they travel well is because no one wants to stay in New York. No one wants to stay in Olean, New York, or St. Bonaventure, New York, or whatever.
Sorry, Woj, if you're listening. Yeah.
Which is true. I mean, it's like there's a reason that they love their basketball so much because there's nothing else to do. But ultimately, a lot of these people end up moving elsewhere. New York, DC, Boston, whatever it is. And there was a lot of St. Bonaventure fans there, including this group of guys that was sitting basically immediately behind us in like the front row of that section right behind the media table. And I was on the St. Bonaventure message board during the game, which is something that I like to do because it gives, with the GW message board and the St. Bonaventure message board, I will be on the Kansas State message board tonight during the game because I think it gives a really good insight as to what a lot of these people who watch every game are thinking. And this guy looked over my shoulder and was like, "Are you on the St. Bonaventure message board?" And was like,
while you are live on air.
Yes, while I was live on air. And I don't know exactly how I reacted. I think I turned around and said something to him once we were like, on break or whatever. And then what was it that he said something about Lil Bonnet?
Like I think you chirped him for something. And it's like, well, we're up and we are and
yeah, so, it was like, well, like, we're winning.
Saying?
Like we're beating you and we're terrible. We're gonna come in last place in the league.
And then he said, "Oh, well, I know Lil Bonnet X, so watch your mouth." He said that to you while you were like in a suit, while you were like a credentialed media member, had your
Yeah.
headset on, broadcasting a game.
Yeah, he was
said,
like, "Well, I know
I
Lil
know
Bona
Lil
X."
Lana X, so watch
And I
your
was
mouth.
like, you probably know him better than me, but like he follows me on Twitter. So anyway, and then I saw him at the A10 tournament the following week.
Yep.
Like in the concourse. I like saw him and he was like, "Yo, man, what's up? How you doing?" And he was so nice. He was like, "Oh man, it was a tough result for GW, man. I kind of was pulling for you guys to pull it out." I was like, "Oh, what a fever dream. What a fever dream."
So we've had about 40 minutes here. I think this is another great episode, the second episode of the GW Basketball Insiders. Thank you all for tuning in.
Wait, one more thing. Can we get a prediction? What do we think is going to happen? What's going to be the result of this? So do you think GW beats Kansas State tonight? And what do you like? How many games in this MTE do you think GW wins?
This is tough because it's like, I'm going to say this. I think if Jacoi Hutchinson looks good, looks healthy, ankle's good, he can effectively defend Doug McDaniel, I think GW wins. I really think they do. But so that's going to be my prediction. I'm not going to give an official yes or no because I think that's such a big question mark so far. No. I think if Jacoi Hutchinson is close to 100%, I think GW is a real shot.
Yeah. How many games do you think they win in the tournament?
I'd say 2. I think that's
2?
solid. Looking at this field, I'm confident that they can either win 2 games on the losers bracket, or if they are able to beat Kansas State. I mean, if they can beat Kansas State, they should win the whole thing. But if they can beat Kansas State, I'm confident they can get one more win.
Yeah. I think 2 is realistic, and I would be happy with 2. Obviously, if they beat Kansas State.
Yes, I think that would be a positive result from this.
Yeah, I think if they beat Kansas State, then you need to go and beat Liberty, and then you probably need to go and beat McNeese. How about that? Oh, I have a great. I hope we play Liberty, because I have a good tweet that I'm going to release that I won't say now. It's a good.
Actually,
one.
no, I lied. I lied. That is not a successful tournament. A successful tournament is coming out of here healthy.
Oh, you sound like an assistant coach.
Am I wrong? Or do you remember Hawaii?
No, you're not.
Do you remember the Diamond Head Classic?
That was like
the Diamond.
Go down in GW
Diamond Head
lore.
disaster. Caputo still mentioned that. He mentioned the non-goaltend call in the press conference after NJIT. So
yeah, I saw that.
That phone call I had with him at 1 a.m. after was something after that. But
okay. I think GW loses tonight, and I'll say they win their 2 games in the losers bracket.
Okay. I like it. So thank you guys for listening. This is the second ever episode of the GW Basketball Insiders presented by the Department of Hoops and Matt Maderno. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our first ever guest, GW men's basketball head coach Chris Caputo, joining us from the side of the road in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then later on in a second bus after their original bus broke down. Electric episode and really fun game tonight for GW against Kansas State. Make sure to tune in for that.